This is live breaking news unfolding right now at the epicenter of one of the most explosive political scandals in American history. Federal agents from the FBI have stormed the elections hub in Fulton County, Georgia, executing a sweeping search warrant and hauling away hundreds of boxes filled with 2020 presidential election ballots, documents, and related materials that could finally crack open the long-buried secrets of that fateful vote. Picture the scene. Tactical teams in FBI vests swarming the facility off Fair Road, backing up trucks to load crate after crate under the watchful eyes of stunned local officials scrambling to log every item taken into custody by the clerk of Superior Court. These aren't just any records. We're talking absentee ballots, scanning logs, voter rolls, and tabulator tapes from the very election that flipped Georgia blue and sent shockwaves through the nation, all now en route to secure federal facilities out of state, possibly Virginia, to prevent any last-minute judicial interference. And this didn't come out of nowhere. Just weeks ago, at the World Economic Forum in Davos, President Donald Trump dropped a bombshell during his address, leaning into the microphone with that unmistakable intensity. It's a war that should have never started, and it wouldn't have started if the 2020 U.S. presidential election weren't rigged. It was a rigged election. Everybody now knows that. They found out. People will soon be prosecuted for what they did. Those words hung in the air like a promise of reckoning. And now, with Trump firmly back in the White House after his triumphant 2024 re-election and January 2025 inauguration, the machinery of justice is grinding into motion, targeting the heart of what many believe was systemic manipulation in Fulton County. Every time this Democratic stronghold makes headlines, it's laced with the same toxic brew: allegations of cheating, embezzlement, RICO violations, forfeited funds, and a relentless pattern of opacity that screams cover-up. Focus your attention on the grainy surveillance footage that's resurfaced from that chaotic night in 2020. Watch the woman in the bright yellow top, stationed at the desk near the scanning machines. She feeds a stack of ballots into the device, waits for the whir, then pulls them out, only to slide the exact same batch back in, repeating the process over and over. How many times did those votes register? Were they double-counted, tripled, or worse? Fulton officials have stonewalled every inquiry, refusing to release the audit tally sheets that would tell the tale. Over 100,000 missing, including 50,000 from mail-in ballots alone. Documents legally mandated by state law, but withheld for months on end. If the process was pristine, why the evasion? Why hoard evidence like a guilty secret? This raid isn't random. It's the culmination of years of federal pressure, including a December lawsuit from the Justice Department demanding access after repeated refusals, shifting from civil demands to criminal enforcement with guns, badges, and warrants. Local leaders are in full meltdown mode, with Commissioner Mo Ivory captured on video outside the hub, her voice trembling as she announces the seizure of 700 boxes. Absentee ballots, enclosures, the works, while insisting the clerk is inventorying it all. She's framing it as an outrageous assault on democracy itself, meant to scare voters away from the polls ahead of the May primaries and November midterms. But let's peel back the spin. A properly executed warrant, corrected on the spot for a minor procedural glitch, is standard law enforcement protocol, not some shadowy plot. These officials decry federal overreach while ignoring their own history of defiance, from boarding up windows during counts to evade public scrutiny to unleashing armed reps from the Secretary of State's office, 3 with guns and cuffs, flanked by Dominion technicians, to intimidate poll supervisors into compliance. That night, with no bipartisan observers in sight, they pulled in high school sophomores from a nearby private school to handle the recount, batching ballots into hundreds and running them through glitchy scanners that jammed repeatedly, as if the machines themselves rebelled against the farce. No Democrats, no Republicans, just kids fumbling through what should have been a transparent audit, all under the county attorney's protective watch. The American public has waited too long for this moment, demanding not just answers, but prosecutions for those who gamed the system. As the trucks rumble away, sealed and secured, the panic in Fulton is palpable, a sign that the walls are closing in on those who thought they could bury the truth forever. Commissioner Ivory didn't stop at the outdoor briefing. She went live from inside the facility, positioning herself as the insider voice of reason amid the chaos, urging viewers to sift through the external noise and grasp the truth of the operation. She described the initial warrant as legally flawed, forcing agents to regroup and return after fixes, now methodically boxing up the archived materials under the superior court clerk's supervision. But here's the twist she glosses over. Once ballots enter the archival phase in Fulton, they fall under the clerk's chain of custody. Yet, county commissioners, the chairman, and attorneys huddled frantically, plotting injunctions or motions to quash, desperate to claw back control before the evidence slips irreversibly into federal hands. Ivory spins it as a direct assault on voter confidence, time to derail the 2026 midterms and preserve power, pinning it squarely on President Trump's agenda without a whisper of the underlying provocations, like the DOJ's subpoena ignored, the lawsuit unanswered, or the mountain of irregularities from 2020 that audits conveniently overlooked. She omits the 3 state election board reps who showed up armed for intimidation during the original tabulation, pressuring the supervisor while Dominion techs hovered, ensuring no solo exposure. The county attorney shadowed her for safety, but the real story was the sham recount that followed. No party watchers, just those teenagers dividing stacks into 100 ballot piles, feeding them into malfunctioning scanners that spat failures endlessly. A shocking revelation that ballots wouldn't scan, as if rigged to fail under scrutiny. Fast forward to now, and the FBI's presence signals escalation, with whispers of Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard spotted on site, her involvement elevating this from routine to red alert national security matter. Why would the DNI embed herself in a local election probe, unless intelligence pointed to coordinated fraud at scale? The Justice Department's December suit laid it bare. Demands for ballots, stubs, envelopes, and compliance checks on federal voter laws met with stonewalling that forced this warrant's breadth, seizing nearly everything from 2020 to probe preservation failures and beyond. Fulton defended by claiming materials were sealed with the court, but that dodge crumbled under federal resolve. Trucks now ferrying the haul away as officials assemble legal counterstrikes in real time. Ivory's rhetoric paints Trump as the chaos architect, sowing fear for November, yet ignores how her county's resistance fueled the fire. Years of denied records, public records requests rebuffed despite taxpayer funding mandates. If transparency reigned, why the fortress mentality? Boarding windows, hiding operations, and now this theatrical outrage smack of cornered operatives, their deflections ringing increasingly hollow as box after box vanishes into the night. The public felt the steel on election night 2020, watching leads evaporate in swing states like Georgia, only to awaken to inexplicable reversals. Now, with evidence physically extracted, the narrative of nothing to see unravels, replaced by the raw prospect of forensic reckoning. Deep dive into the smoking gun that's propelling this raid. Duplicated ballots, captured in stark detail across entire batches, not isolated slips, but systematic replication screaming foul play. Zoom in on the images. Dozens from scanner 5162, batch 235, image 92, mirrored precisely in batch 234, image 33, down to the tiny dots, tails, and handwritten Republican marks repeated ad nauseum, ballot 61 cloned relentlessly with identical bubbles and imperfections. This isn't coincidence. It's a forensic match across 62 photos, the most blatant ones spotlighting perfect duplicates that no honest count could produce. Pair that with the missing 100,000 plus tally sheets, and the math doesn't add up. Votes potentially inflated by rescans, untracked multiples turning the scales in a razor-thin state. Tulsi Gabbard's boots-on-ground presence underscores the gravity. The DNI doesn't micromanage evidence grabs for petty disputes. She deploys when intel confirms high-level malfeasance, linking local antics to broader election subversion. Commissioner Ivory's indoor dispatch devolves into paranoia, commissioners plotting every legal Hail Mary to halt the exodus. Fretting that once federal hands close around the ballots, reversal becomes impossible, an admission that the contents terrify them. She ties it to midterm sabotage, Trump allegedly engineering doubt to cling to power, but skips the DOJ's exhaustive prelude. Subpoenas spurned, suits filed, all rooted in 300,000 potentially double-counted votes and preservation lapses. The raid's timing post-Davos amplifies the heat, Trump's prophecy materializing as agents wrap up post-nightfall. 720 boxes secured and departed. No hiccups tolerated by vigilant escorts ensuring safe transit. Local reactions betray guilt. Ivory's assault claims clash with procedural propriety, her team fighting back legally while the public cheers unearthing. Windows boarded during 2020, counts hid similar slights, supervisors shielded from oversight, ballots manhandled in shadows. Now, with physical proof outbound, the zero transparency era ends, replaced by lab scrutiny that could validate every suspicion. Americans sensed the irregularity that night, leads vanishing amid unchecked mail-ins. Today's haul promises validation, prosecutions looming as vowed. On-site interviews capture the elation. Reporters hail it a beautiful day. Years of stonewalling shattered, ballots pursued since 2020, finally wrested free despite cries of "move on." Trucks destined out of state symbolize finality. No more local meddling, just impartial truth-seeking on who truly won. Commissioner Dana Barrett echoes the frenzy, dodging voter roll queries like registered phantoms at empty lots, shuttered shelters and bus stations. $45 buys the lists proving residence is non-existent, yet she flees labeling it conspiracy, unwilling to pledge cleanup as Secretary of State hopeful. Confronted with specifics, 205 Elm Street Northwest, barren ground, she bolts, elitism incarnate, dismissing public servants' duty to explain amid viral scrutiny. This galactic narcissism defines the elite, academics masquerading as guardians, allergic to accountability, sneering at citizens demanding basics like clean rolls in Swing County, America. They gaslight, name-call, evade. Why, if truth shields them? Because exposure beckons. President Trump's Davos warning rings prophetic. Prosecutions inbound. Hot pursuit of justice restoring constitutional arena. Evidence dams Fulton, rescanned ballots, vanished sheets, observer-free recounts, roll ghosts, hidden ops, raid panic. Tulsi's oversight signals apex threat. Officials' flight screams, culpability. Years of mockery for doubters end. FBI holds 700 boxes, intel engaged, Trump delivers. Not partisan ploy, but demand for honest ledger, equal field, American principles upheld. Banana Republic fears fade as rule of law asserts. Fraud impunity crumbles. Truth surges forward, unstoppable. Stay vigilant, for the full expose looms.